We are back answering your eviction and HOPE program questions. Haley Pfeiffer Haynes with the North Carolina Office of Recovery and Resiliency, Isaac Sturgill with Legal Aid of North Carolina are taking your questions. The number is at the bottom corner of the screen. All right, Isaac, this person says, can my landlord ask me to move if I have been paying my rent?
Well, in some situations, yes. So, if you've been paying your rent, and even if you've been a good tenant, if the term of the lease is coming to an end, like if you were on a year lease and the lease is about to expire, or if you're on a month-to-month lease and the landlord has decided they want to use the property for some other purpose, landlords are not obligated to keep renewing the lease over and over again. So if you're still within the term of the lease, then my answer would be no. But if the lease term is about to end, the landlord could just decide not to renew it at that point.
And they do have that option, pandemic or not.
Yeah, that's true for all private or what we call conventional housing. For most subsidized housing, like Section 8 and public housing and things like that, landlords do have to renew the lease in a lot of those. But for people that have Section 8 vouchers or for just private tenants, the landlord does not have to renew after the first year of the lease is over.
Okay, and that's a good clarification there. So if you have a Section 8 voucher and you're living in another apartment complex that's taking that voucher, that is not part of that. They can ask you to leave after that year.
After the first year, they don't have to renew. But in addition to Section 8 vouchers, you also have something called project-based Section 8, which is where it's not a voucher, it's just like a housing project, or public housing where the subsidy is tied to the unit. And those types of housing, they do have to keep renewing unless they have some good cause not to renew, like you breached your lease or you failed to pay or something like that.
This person says, Haley, how can you show proof that you're eligible to receive assistance?
Well, so if they have applied to our program, then we have actually sent out emails to all of our eligible applicants, making them aware that they have been determined to be initially eligible and therefore protected by the eviction moratorium. And so I would advise them to go into their email and look for that. If they are asking how can they be eligible now, right now we are not accepting applications. We were able to keep applications open for about 3 weeks between October and November before all of our funding was fully subscribed. Now there is additional federal funding that's coming for rent and utility assistance, and that should be available sometime in the next, I can't say exactly when, because the U.S. Treasury Department, which is overseeing this funding, has to provide more guidance, and the General Assembly has to appropriate it to an agency. And so there will be more money to help people. We just don't know when that will be available.
Okay, this next question says, can a landlord decline the money from HOPE program, or can they only take a portion of it?
They can definitely decline to participate. It's a voluntary program for them, and so they can decline it. I'm not quite sure about only taking part of it. That doesn't quite make sense to me, unless they believe that there's an overpayment of some kind. But in general, we would encourage landlords to take the full amount because that will keep the tenant stable in their housing for longer.
And I know we have, go ahead.
If I can jump in there really quickly too, another important point is even if the landlord refuses the money, if the HOPE program has told the tenant that they were eligible for assistance and they have the letter from the HOPE program saying that, Governor Cooper's order, which has also been extended through the end of March, says that person should be protected from eviction for non-payment. So if the HOPE program has told a tenant that they're eligible and they have proof of that, even if the landlord doesn't want to accept the money, that letter is something the tenant could take into court to try to use as a defense against the eviction.
And I know some landlords at the beginning said that they didn't want to take the money because there were some stipulations for how long they would have to rent to that tenant. Those stipulations, though, have changed some.
Yes, they have. So it's been reduced now that If a landlord agrees to take the funding, then they have to agree not to evict for non-payment of rent during the time that they're receiving assistance and 60 days from the time that they sign the landlord-tenant agreement, along with if there's credit for future rent, they obviously cannot evict during that time. So anytime that they're getting paid for, and then 60 days from the time they sign the agreement, the tenant is protected from eviction for non-payment.
Mm-hmm. And I know we're getting a couple of text questions from landlords saying, well, what am I supposed to do because I have rent to pay as well? And so I know normally you're on the other side of that, Isaac.
Well, I think the goal here is both for landlords and tenants to get the landlords paid. And so, I do understand that landlords have bills and that they may have mortgages they need to pay and things of that sort as well. I will say that the overriding purpose of this moratoria is to protect the public health. There was a study out of Duke University recently that said that because of this eviction moratoria, the infection rate of COVID-19 within the state was reduced by something close to 9%. I think between 8 and 9%. So there is a direct connection between evictions and the spread of COVID. This moratoria is really just trying to keep people in place until the money can come through, but it takes time. And like you just heard us say, there's new money that's coming down, about $700 million from the federal government right now, but it's just going to take some more time to get it into people's hands.
And I know it's hard for everyone to be patient, sure.
Yeah, once landlords get paid, that's what the tenants and the landlords both want, is to have the rent paid.